Hey, hey. Welcome to Candidly Speaking with Chelle Kelle. I'm Kelle.
I'm Chelle. We are so glad that you are with us tonight. And thanks for watching. We have not been here for like the last, 2 or 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
So we were just joking. We hope you remember how to do this. So thanks for being here. And if you are here, please let us know. Please let us know by putting where you're watching from in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, please just put in hashtag replay. So what's up, Kellen?
Well, I want to do a little Babe Lash update. Remember the Babe
Okay.
Lash?
Yes, I am re-babe lashing again because I strayed and got something else, and yeah, I'm back to babe lash.
Well, I've been forgetting to use it because I keep, I figured if I have to remember something, it's to wash my face. Because you said that if you don't wash your face, it's like you age 7 days.
7 days.
Every day that you don't wash your face, you age 7 days. So that's been my priority. So I haven't been putting the lash stuff on. And they are so, it's like they're puny. It's like, look at, they're not even here. You can't even.
When did you start using babe lash?
Originally, when we started our show, remember it was our second show. You told me about it.
But did you use it at all, or just?
No, I used it, and it was getting long, and the bottoms were going crazy. I just stopped putting it on the bottom.
Like in 2 days, you can see a difference in like 2 days.
I have to get back on that regimen.
And don't stray because I just tried. Well, let me try this. Let me try that, and yeah, it was fine.
So okay, well that's my only beauty mishap this week. I've been lucky.
That's a good week.
I know, right? And there's our friend Missy. Hey, Missy. So as you know, I am not in Georgia right now. I am in this beautiful home of my lovely friend, Susan, who I know a lot of people know about the Derby party that she threw over the weekend, and it was epic. We had so much fun, and I finally got the pictures organized, and I will be posting the before, my this turning into this kind of a post, so you guys can see all that was epic. But I have her here right now, and I'm going to introduce her in a minute. But we need to do shameless sponsors. We have to shamelessly promote our sponsors. So first of all, we have Blue Sky Video Productions. Bruce Himmelblau is our producer. He makes all this happen so that we don't have to push any buttons. Because remember the last time he gave me control? It was disastrous. It was, people, I kicked them out of the show. I couldn't put comments up. So no, the law is do not let Kellen have any buttons. So if you're like me, you need a Bruce and you need to contact him. He's a YouTube strategist as well. So he will help you grow your YouTube channel and all that cool stuff. And then next we have our wonderful friend, Ronnie Goodwin in Goodwin Graphics at cottonfeelsgood.com. He is printing and making our t-shirts as we speak. So if you're a guest on our show, you get a free t-shirt, and it's going to be a work of art because, of course, I designed it, right?
Yeah.
So go to cottonfeelsgood.com. He does everything promotionary. So anything you need, t-shirts, hats, anything you can think of, he can make it for you. And I know he's not feeling well right now. So Ronnie, I hope you're feeling better. And we are sending you hugs and love and sending you well wishes to get better. And then finally, I'm going to bring over my friend, Susan, who is going to shamelessly plug Cards That Wow, our third sponsor. Susan, meet our viewers.
Well, fantastic. Hello, viewers. No, it's great. Kellen asked me kind of last minute when I walked in the door from work, and she's like, "Come on, you're going to be on the show, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute, let me go get some wine first." It is happy hour in Florida right now.
It is.
But it's great to be here. Should I tell them how we met? And how I learned about Cards That Wow?
Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah, it was very simple. In a hot tub on a cruise ship.
Yes.
It kind of went from that point to Kellen. It was, the marketing and kind of advertising and PR guru. And my background was in HR, and we kind of worked together, and she found this fantastic job opportunity in California and went off and did wonderful things. And then her daughter went off to college, and she said, "Wow, I am going to start doing something different." And she never told me what the something different was until I came home one day and opened up a box. And inside of the box was this card. And the name of the company could not probably be better, because when I opened it up the first time, I went, wow, this is really cool. And then immediately I FaceTimed her, and I think it was like 11:30 at night. And I don't think you answered that night. And I spoke with you the next day. But fast forwarding that, I work in the healthcare industry right now with seniors who are kind of in their final stages of life, and they've decided not to go into a nursing home. They want to stay at home and have in-home care. So these are people that have gotten rid of things throughout their life. They're no longer collecting things. So when it comes to special events like Kellen, Christmas or Hanukkah or Mother's Day, we always look for something really special to do and it's primarily women because women outlive men generally. So we always look for something special that would be appropriate for that audience. So in our office team, we said, my gosh, I think, cards, women love cards still because they're not of the digital age. These are 80, 90, 100-year-olds. And Kellen, put together some great ideas and said, well, what if we did something like this? Let me send you some samples. I passed it out through the management staff. They absolutely loved it. And then we put in the orders. And when the orders went in, it was immediate turnaround. And I think by the time that your cards first landed with us, we had about a day or two, because I gave you virtually no notice, as usual, to get them out. Well, let me tell you about the responses we've got one client who's 104, and will probably live to be about 110. She picked up the phone. We hand delivered all of these, by the way. With beautiful little soaps on the top and gorgeous cards, handwritten note inside, something very particular for that client. And this one client called us back and she said, I cannot believe where your staff finds the time to create these. And my client services manager said, oh gosh, we don't create these. We could never do anything like this. We use a friend of Susan's who runs a company. And she said, that has to be the biggest company in the world that everybody wants to get their cards. I don't know how you got in orders for me. I'm just a little old nobody. And we said, no, you're very, very special. And she said, every time I open up one of your cards, I'm always excited when I see the colors on the inside, because I know that it's coming from our company, Home Instead. And I know that you use a special card company to design these just for me. So she has them lined up on her mantle, and every time the family comes over, that's what they look at.
I love that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
So that's my shameless promotion of Cards That Wow. But I think what better way to hear it from somebody that actually utilizes my services, and Susan has been a wonderful client. So
makes a great impact. And honestly, it's one of those things where people remember it long beyond flowers.
Right.
They'll hold on to it for next year and pull it back out again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So nice to meet everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kellen.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you.
That was fun.
That was fun. Well, all right. Let's talk about who we're going to have here tonight. Okay. There's so much. I had to write all this down. I was afraid to try to commit this to memory. He is a TikTok sensation. Okay. He has written 3 books: How to Host a Viking Funeral. If you have not read it, you must. We Put a Man on the Moon, Thoughts on Living a Better Story. Really, really cool. Everything on It, which is a delightful children's book. In addition to being a TikToker and an author, he's an artist, an inventor, a speaker, a welder, an animator, a storyteller, and a professional internet goofball. Okay. He's in Springfield, Missouri. Help us welcome our guest tonight, Kyle Scheele.
Hello.
Hey, Kyle.
We forgot the video.
What video?
We had a video to play.
We have it. Let's show it.
I'm sorry. This has to be addressed. How did this become this? Become this? Become this?
That cracks me up every day. That just is the essence of you, Kyle, in my opinion. That is the essence of you.
Oh, thank you. My wife, I'll tell her that when she has to walk by that bike that's like taking up half our garage every day. And I think every day she gets a little more like, what is the plan for this? So knowing that it brought you joy, I think that buys me a couple more days.
It has brought so many people. Yeah.
I do. I play it every now and then. I just go, I just can't believe how funny you are. I mean, you've done so many funny things, like the fake marathon. When I was reading that in your book, I almost peed my pants. I was in the hammock. I wasn't near a bathroom.
That was Run Free. Is that what that was called?
Well, I've done 2 different ones now. So the first one was Run Free. That was in 2013. And then last year, I was just planning on posting a video about it. Like I didn't have anything to post that week on TikTok. And I was like, I'll do a video about the time that I did a fake marathon. And I sent the video to 2 of my friends, and both of them were like, if you post this, people are going to want to do it again. And I was like, I don't know. Because I have a bad habit of like, as soon as I'm done with an idea, I just move on and go to the next thing. And both of my friends were like, no, for sure people are going to want to do it again. So I posted a video about it, and I was like, does anybody want to do this again? And I think like 8,000 people signed up the first day. And by the end of it, we had 34,000 people that had signed up, which technically made us bigger than the Boston Marathon. So
that's hilarious.
So last year we did it again. And last year it was called the Home Run Marathon because it was during the pandemic. So everyone was stuck at home. And so I actually almost wore that shirt today. I should have worn it. Our little mascot was a little house that was running. And so it was super fun though, because the thing that I loved about the Home Run Marathon was I just kind of gave this prompt to people of like, okay, we're going to pretend that we're running a marathon. And I sent out like a printable bib that you could just download and print out. And people just kind of took it, and no pun intended, but ran with it. And I ended up with hundreds and hundreds of videos that were posted where people went out and just kind of made it their own race. And so if you scroll back to I think it was last February on my TikTok, there's a video of, it's like a compilation of all the videos that people sent in. And I mean, they made fake aid stations. So they would set up tables, and have water on it and snacks and stuff. And there was somebody who I think was a paramedic for their real job. And so they had an ambulance, and they had the doors open. They had printed out the marathon logo, and it said medical station. And there were people that, they faked finish lines and starting lines and injuries and all sorts of stuff. And it was just so fun to take, I call it turning a me project into a we project. And so to take something that was just some dumb idea I had and to watch other people kind of take that and go with it was super duper fun.
I would have faked me crawling across the finish line.
It was funny. There was some of that. There were multiple.
First, you'd register for the race. Then I would mail you all of the stuff you get from a regular race. Race t-shirt, race bib, race medal, the whole 9 yards. On the day of the race, everyone would go outside and take pictures of themselves pretending to run. And then they'd upload those pictures to social media and use the official race hashtag. So then when anyone looked at that hashtag, there would be hundreds of pictures of people looking like they were running, like a real race. The race was called Run Free because, well, it was free of running. In the end, over 1,000 people participated from 24 different countries around the world, and the race was featured in Runner's World magazine. People really got into this whole thing. They posted fake training pictures, fake race day pictures. People even set up fake aid stations on the day of the race. It was an amazing experience I'll never forget, which brings me to my question. Run Free happened in 2013. It's 2021 now. There's a global pandemic. We're all stuck in our houses, and I can't think of a time when we've more desperately needed some ridiculous, fun group internet project to improv together. So what do you say? Anybody want to go for a run?
So that was the recap video that I posted, and then the day after I posted that, I think 8,000 people had signed up for the second race.
That's amazing.
And Run Free was really fun because that was one of the first weird internet projects that I ever did. And again, we thought nobody would sign up for that. That was a month after the first real zeitgeisty thing that I did where it was oh, this blew up way bigger than I thought was it was in 2012. And it was when there was 50 Shades of Grey had come out, and there was all this controversy around 50 Shades of Grey. And I was working as a graphic designer at the time, and I was joking around with some friends. I was like, there's actually way more than 50 Shades of Grey. Even if you are very strict with the definition of what shades of gray are, there's at least 99 of them. And because there's a thing called grayscale, and it's very technical, but it's dumb. And I thought, oh, I should publish a book that's just all the different shades of gray. So I put that up on Kickstarter, and I called it 99 Shades of Grey. And I thought, no one's going to buy this. And it was just kind of a dumb joke. We were trying to raise $600 because that was like, we talked to a bunch of printers and said, how many books, what's the minimum? And we finally got someone who was like, we'll print, it was probably like 100 copies or something for $600. And we ended up selling almost $10,000 worth of that book. And like, we shipped them to a dozen different countries and put one in the Library of Congress. So that was like the first project that we put up on Kickstarter. And the second one was Run Free. And that one, again, just blew up way beyond what we ever thought. We were trying to raise like $1,000 because we thought, well, if we can get 100 people to sign up at the end, like the cheapest level was just $10 for like the registration and a bib and all that kind of stuff. And we ended up raising like $23,000 from that race, and Groupon sponsored it. It was just like, it was a crazy story. And so, to have that come back around 8 years later or whatever was really fun.
That is fun. Can we talk a little bit about art, Michelle?
Yeah, you are an incredible artist. Absolutely incredible artist.
Thank you.
So what inspires you? How did you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I talk about this in the book, but in the new book, the Viking ship book, I didn't think of myself as an artist for like a really long time, really until like within the last few years. And I always had other people like apply that term to me. And for whatever reason, I would just kind of duck out from under that. I just never, I thought, I don't, like, an artist always felt like a term that was like too good for me. Like I was like, I just make weird stuff, or I just like making things, as though that's different from being an artist. And I had a lot of conversations around this. I have a friend named Andy who's the illustrator for my children's book, and he's like just one of the most incredible people I know, but also is a very talented artist himself. And he's an illustrator. He has multiple kids' books out. He has other books out. He has a podcast about creativity. He's done illustrations for like the New York Times and the Washington Post, and like any massive thing, YouTube and Facebook and all these different things. And we were talking one time, and he was like, "You're an artist, Kyle." And I was like, "Well, no, I'm not." And he finally was like, "Tell me why you're not. Like, give me one reason why you're not an artist." And I said, "Because I can't draw realistic faces." And he just started laughing, and he was like, "First of all, that's dumb. And second of all, I can't draw realistic faces." And I realized like he's right. Like I'm looking at some of his pictures that I have up in my office right now, and he can't draw realistic faces. Like he draws cartoons. And yeah, I mean, look at that. That child's head is so much bigger than the dad's head, but it works. And I realized in that moment, like, I just kind of kept moving the goalposts on what an artist was, because I didn't want to like accept it or whatever. And Andy was like, there's such thing as a bad artist, right? Like you're not, it's not an ego thing for you to say that you are an artist. And I eventually kind of came to realize that being an artist isn't about like having a certain amount of skill. It's about like the way that you see the world and just seeing it from a different perspective, maybe. And once I realized that, I kind of was like, I am an artist. I've always been an artist. And so yeah, I mean, to answer your question about where inspiration comes from and things, that I would say it comes from everywhere. I mean, I am constantly inspired just by the world around me, and whether it's looking at, taking a walk and looking at the trees that are blooming because it's spring right now, or looking at books that fascinate me, or going to garage sales, or looking at weird TikTok videos. Like inspiration is everywhere if you're looking for it.
So do you have a mentor or somebody that you look up to, that you kind of like you're a fanboy for?
Yeah, I mean, I would have a bunch of them. I would say like the person who got me into art, like without even knowing it, was a guy named Wayne White. And Wayne White is he's like so prolific that it's kind of hard to pin down like what he does. But he is most well known for a handful of things. One of which is that he did all of the puppets on Pee-wee's Playhouse, and did like the set design and animation on like Beekman's World. And he was just like really into kids television in like the 80s and 90s. And then after that, he got into the fine art world and started doing these like incredible paintings where he would take, actually I have small versions of them here. He would take like thrift store word painting or thrift store landscapes and paint words into them. And oftentimes the words were profane. This one just says turd. Some of them I won't show you because a lot of them have the F word in them. But
that's okay.
This one's called FU Invasion, and it's just a bunch of ships flying in that say FU. And he's funny because he's extremely profane, but he's like the nicest guy. And so there's a documentary about him. It's called Beauty is Embarrassing. And I saw that years ago, and I just stumbled across it. And it was one of those things where I can pinpoint several of these moments in my life where I'm like, if that thing hadn't happened at that one moment, like my life would have gone a completely different direction. And so
I know firsthand he's a really nice guy because he's here.
What? Oh my God, Wayne White, what?
Hey, Kyle.
How's it going, man?
Good.
How are you, Wayne? Oh my God, this is the best.
We were like, when are you going to say his name?
Oh my God, that's incredible. I'm so stoked about this. How are you, Wayne?
I'm good. How are you, Kyle? Congratulations again on the book and being celebrated like this. And Kelly called me up and offered me $25,000 to be on the podcast.
No, $25,000 in cards.
Hey, that's more than I'm getting, but I appreciate it. Got to get that money.
Yeah, she reached out and asked me, and I said, sure, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun to surprise you because in your book you talk so prolifically about him, and and he was so monumental in what you do, and I thought it would be so fun to bring you two together.
I would have made the whole book about Wayne, but at some point they were like, it can't just be about Wayne White. There's already a whole book about Wayne White. So, yeah, it's funny because I've talked about Wayne so much, and I've told Wayne this like in emails and stuff, but like never this directly, just like how much of a difference you made in my life and how much like that movie completely just changed my life and inspired me in so many ways. And then me getting to meet Wayne a couple different times just completely changed the trajectory of who I am and where my life has gone.
Do you want to tell our audience about how you went to his studio and the door was open?
Well, it wasn't his studio. It was an art studio. So before the pandemic, Wayne was doing all of these big installation pieces like all around the country. And where's that echo coming from, by the way? Is anyone else hearing that?
I think it's you.
Wait, it might be me.
I'm sure. Let's blame it on Wayne.
Okay. There we go. Okay, that's better. So Wayne was doing these big installation pieces all over the country, and he was doing, and he can correct me, I'm probably going to butcher the explanation of this, but he did these like really cool things where he would go into a town and like learn about the history of that town, and then do this kind of crazy madhouse giant puppet sculptures and cardboard things that in some way like tied into the history of that town. And so there was one in York, Pennsylvania, and it had these Civil War soldiers that like one of them was like 20 feet tall, and there was one that was a puppet and you would pull on these strings and he was like putting his boot on. And so I had been seeing all of this happening because he was posting stuff on social media about it. It wasn't an open exhibit yet. It took like, I don't know, weeks or a month or so to build out, and it wasn't open yet. But I was supposed to fly to the speaking event in the Northwest somewhere, and then I was going to another one in Pennsylvania. And on the way to the first event, my flight or my event got canceled because of this blizzard that was in the Northwest. And so I was halfway there. I would like flown to Chicago and I was supposed to fly on there. So then I had to make the decision, like, do I come home for a day and then go to the next one? Or do I just try to make it to Pennsylvania and have a day to kill? And so I decided to just go to Pennsylvania because of the weather. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fly in 2 days or whatever. And so I get there, and as my plane's taking off, I'm just on Instagram and I see like Wayne's doing this installation. And I was just like, oh, I wonder how far that is from where I'm going to be. And so I looked it up and it was like 45 minutes away. And I called my assistant at the time and I was like, hey, I need a hotel. I explained the whole thing. And she goes, oh, I'll just have your hotel like book a night before. And I was like, no, I actually need a hotel 45 minutes away in this other town. And she was like, why? And I just go, it's probably best if you don't know. And so I fly there and then I drive to York. And by the time I land there, it's like, or I get to York, it's after 5 o'clock. I drive up to this art gallery and the front, it's all the lights are off. And I was like, oh man, they're not here. And I don't know why, but I just tried the door anyways. And the door opens. And so all the lights are off in this gallery. And it's like, it's an art gallery. So there's all this nice stuff around. And I was like, I shouldn't keep going. But I was like, I'm just going to see if I can find the room that he's in and maybe I can look at this stuff. And so I walk, there's like a basement. I walk into I'm flipping lights on and walking all over this place. And eventually I walk up to the second floor and that there's like a door that's locked. And then I hear a voice in the stairwell and I had watched the documentary about Wayne so many times that I could recognize. I was like, oh, that's his wife. And so his wife, Mimi Pond, who is also like just a phenomenally talented artist herself, was on the phone in the stairwell above. And I eventually found out that like the room he was in was on the 3rd floor. And so I walk up there and there's still people in there and they're all working. They had just turned off all the lights on the 1st floor. And this curator lady walks over and I think she's going to kick me out or whatever. And she's like, hey, can I help you? And I said, oh, I'm just, I don't know what I said, but I kind of stumbled through like, I'm a big fan and I just wanted to see, what he's doing. And she's like, well, do you want to meet Wayne? And I was like, yeah. So she walks me over and he's in his like trademark mechanics jumpsuit that he wears. And he was just super nice. And he said, he goes, do you like making stuff? And I said, yeah. And he said, you're hired. Come back tomorrow. So I went to my hotel and came back the next morning. And I was like, I'm going to be the first person here and I'm going to outlast all these other suckers. And, and so I stayed all day and people would come in and out and we're all just gluing cardboard and hot glue together. And sure enough, my plan worked. At the end of the day, it was just me and Wayne and he was just so nice and helpful and stuff. And I always have note cards I have note cards right here. I always have note cards with me. So I had note cards in my backpack and I was like, hey, would you sign this note card? And so hold on, I actually have it. It's right over here.
Okay, we lost him, folks.
And so he signed this note card and he wrote, Kyle, you're an expert cardboarder. Thank you, Wayne. And I have this in my office forever. So, and that day, like, you can tell like the before and after of when I met you, Wayne, because like my work it was like just not very good. And then it just went way up after that. And I just left like so inspired and I came home and I just started making more cardboard stuff. And yeah, that was like the beginning of all of this.
Well, I think your story is valuable because that's what impressed me about you, that you sought me out. You knew about it and you went to the source and stalked me and found me. I've done the same thing with people I wanted to meet. And a lot of people have similar stories, people that have wanted to do something in the arts, that have a mentor that they've wanted to meet. Just go for it, Most people, most artists, if you show passion and interest, they're going to accept you. Some won't, but that's the chance you take. And your stalking story, it's inspiring, and it reminds me of me. It's something I would have done. So hats off to your stalking abilities and hats off to your cardboard and hot glue abilities. I'll tell you, Kyle was one of the fastest learners I've ever had. Within an hour, he was an expert at it, and he built this beautiful hand right away. And hands are one of the hardest things to build, or draw, or anything in art. Mm-hmm. So kudos to your drive and your skills. You're a very impressive guy.
Well, thank you, Wayne. That means so much to me. The other thing I will say about Wayne that is, it's so funny that he mentioned that hand, is because I think it was like a year or two later, he was doing another installation in Wichita, and that's a lot closer to where I live in Missouri. And so I emailed him and I was like, hey, do you need people to help you with this? And he's in the middle of working. And so he sends me this really quick email back that was just like, yeah, come on out. But I couldn't tell from the email if he like knew who I was or remembered anything about me. And so I drive to Wichita. I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple of days. And she's like, are you going to a work event? And I was like, sure, whatever. And so I drive to Wichita and I get there and it's another like, art gallery space and there's people working and I don't see Wayne. I kind of walk in and the girl who's in charge of the space walks up and she's like, hey, can I help you? And I go, yeah, I was going to kind of come and volunteer and stuff. And so she's just nice and is just asking about, she's like, so what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a motivational speaker. And then right then Wayne walks around the corner and he goes, and a hell of a cardboarder. And then he's like, remember that hand that you made for me last time? He's like, I got another one I need you to make. And the fact that he like remembered that about me, I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy, like I feel like, and maybe I'm just jaded, but my understanding of the art world has always been that it's like very standoffish and that everyone's very like exclusive and like, oh, you're not allowed in here because you didn't go to this art school or you don't have this. And so that's like what I was expecting. And Wayne was just like the complete opposite of that. And that was so like refreshing to see like, oh, you can be in this world. You can be a really creative person and not be a total jerk and be like a good guy. And so that was that just blew my mind that he was like, not only remembered me, but was like this specific thing that you did. I remember that. And he already had like a thing that planned for me to do when I got there.
Well, thank you guys both proved how nice of artists you are because you let me stalk you. You actually answered my message. So thank you both.
You're welcome. Anyway, it's I don't want to take up. This is your time. We could go on and on. I know I could go on and on about myself, please. But
maybe we'll have you on our show next time.
Yeah. Again, Kyle, congratulations on your book. It's very impressive, very inspirational. Your work with cardboard and your work with kids and all that, fantastic. I'm very
Thank you so much, Wayne. I hope that our paths can cross again in the near future.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, great talking to you guys.
Thank you, Wayne. So have a great night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, you guys. That was the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me.
Only the best for our guests.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna be riding that high for so long.
Okay, remember that when I contact you again, okay?
Well, next time I'm going to be like, okay, who did they get this time? And it's going to be like, Barack Obama is here. Oh, man, that's crazy. I love you guys.
We want to continue our talk with the cardboard and the dragon and the amazing book that you wrote that I am your biggest non-relative fan, I think. I'm pretty sure. I mean,
man. Yeah. What do you want to know? I'll tell you anything.
We'll talk about your 20s. That's how it all started, right?
So actually yesterday was my birthday. And so that was like the 6-year anniversary of the kind of beginning of all this. So in May of 2016, I turned 30. And so in the lead up to that, like in, April or whatever, I'm 29 and my birthday's coming up. And my mom just was making conversation and she said, hey, what are you going to do for your 30th? Are you going to have a big party and celebrate turning 30? And I just sort of as a joke was like, no, Mom, I'm not going to celebrate turning 30. I'm going to have a funeral to mourn the death of my 20s. And she was like, that's weird. Why are you doing that? And my mom she's my mom. So she like knows how my weird brain works and is just used to it. And so she said something like, oh, what are you going to have? Is that the theme of your birthday party? Is a funeral for your 20s? You're going to have a coffin and people can put their gifts in the coffin. And I was like, no, that'd be weird. I said, I'm not having a regular funeral. I'm having a Viking funeral. And so it started as just this dumb joke. And my mom, she had mentioned, yeah, that's not less weird. Yeah, it's just a different weird. And it kind of, my mom had mentioned before, like, oh, they have some land out in the country. And so she was like, you could have a bonfire out here. So part of it was me going like, well, I don't want to just have a regular bonfire. What else can I burn? And what initially started as this idea of like, oh, I'll build a little Viking ship. It just kind of like kept getting bigger in my head. And so by the end of it, I had built this Viking ship out of cardboard and hot glue that was 8 feet tall and 16 feet long. And so
I have a picture. Is there a picture, Bruce?
I have a picture of the 20.
It's not going to be on that page probably. I mean, there's pictures on my Instagram and stuff, but the first ship was like roughly the size of like a minivan or something. And so I made that ship and I built these big letters and numbers that said my 20s. And then I set the whole thing on fire, and I invited a bunch of my friends over, and we just had a fun time. And I sort of thought like, oh, that was fun. But you know, I've done a lot of dumb, weird projects over the years, and I thought that would be kind of just another one I did, and then it moved on. But my friends made a video about the project, and in that video, I said something about how you have to let go of the past in order to like make room for new things in the future. And something about that quote like really seemed to resonate with people. And so I started getting these emails from strangers, and they'd be like, hey, I saw your weird Viking ship thing. And it inspired me to kind of think about some stuff I want to let go of. And then they would always kind of end the email by saying like, P.S. I just wish I could do it with a cool Viking funeral like you did. So I got one of these emails, and then I got 2 of these emails. I got 3 of these emails. And like a year later, I'm still getting emails, and they all kind of say the same thing. And so eventually I was just like, okay, if people want another Viking funeral, then I'll do another Viking funeral. So I announced that I was going to do another funeral, and it wouldn't be for me. It wouldn't be like the death of my 20s. It would just be for anybody who had things that they wanted to let go of from their past. And so, yep, there's the first ship. And then it's so funny seeing that kid. His name's Ian, and he's now like a full-blown teenager. He's like almost as tall as I am. It makes me feel old. But so I made the second ship. I said, send me anything you want to let go of. It could be a regret or a mistake. It could be something that you did or something you didn't do, or a relationship, or just something that you say like, you know, that used to be me. That's not me anymore. And I thought, man, maybe I could get 10,000 of these. That would be incredible. And what ended up happening was I got 21,000 submissions from people all over the world, and then built a second ship that was much, much bigger. It was 16 feet tall and like 30 feet long. And then I put all of the regrets inside, and I set the whole thing on fire.
And it took a little longer than you thought.
Yeah, I thought it would take a year, and it took 2.5 years to do the entire thing. And it was just, man, the book talks a lot about this, but it was just one setback after another, which I find is generally the case with most of my projects. I think like if I ever had known how difficult a thing would be, I wouldn't have done it. And so I kind of go in with this like blind confidence of like, oh, it'll be fine, I'll figure it out. And then it was just one thing after another. I mean, I joke that it was like 2 steps forward, 1 3/4 steps back. And it just constantly felt like that. And the ship was composed of like 3 main pieces, and by the end of it, 2 out of 3 of those pieces had completely collapsed and had to be rebuilt. And so it took so much longer. I got kicked out of 2 different warehouses for not because I did anything wrong, but just because I had a month-to-month lease, and they found better tenants and who weren't building giant art projects and stuff. So it was just a constant struggle, but by the end of it, I did end up getting it done, and 21,000 people's regrets went up in smoke.
And what did you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, you go ahead, because mine's a little bit of a subject change. Not really, but a little.
Okay, I was just say what you learned a lot from reading all of these regrets, didn't you?
Yeah, and honestly, it was tough at times. Like I read every single regret that came in, and sometimes like that was difficult because I mean, some of these things were really heavy, and at times I had to kind of go like, okay, we're going to put this down. I'm going to go take a walk, or I'm going to go like talk to somebody I love, or be reminded that the world is not all this dark, terrible place. And so yeah, it was tough. But one of the things that I learned was, out of all these regrets, 21,000 regrets, really they all fell into like just a handful of categories. There were 5 categories that I kind of identified that almost anything almost any of the regrets fell into those categories. And so those were beliefs, relationships, identities, experiences, and fears. And so almost anything would fall into one of those. And it's not that having a category like made it easier to, let go of, but it did in a sense go, oh, this is just one of those. And you kind of go like, oh, I've dealt with things like this before. I can deal with this one too.
Okay, you really kind of answered the question that I had for you, Kyle. I know that you talk about the people we used to be, and that's a very simple concept, but I'd never really thought about that before. I have recently gone through major transition in my life, going from, my kids at home, married, here I am, to now, this is the first show in my new house where I live by myself. So lots of things. So when I think about, just the person that I was even really 3 months ago, 6 months ago, some of those things I obviously wanted to bring with me. I'm not talking about physical possessions, but some of those things are still with Michelle today. Some of them are not. And I love the idea of maybe, even though I'm probably not going to build, and by probably, I mean, I'm not going to build a Viking ship in my garage, but, just to maybe set fire to those things, and then they're gone. Do you have any words of advice on how to do that?
Well, I think just acknowledging that it's even a possibility is like such a first step. I mean, Wayne being on here was such a great example of that. I don't know if this is true of everyone or if this is just kind of how I'm wired, but I feel like I notice my kids doing this. I notice all children doing this, and that they look at adults. Like when a kid falls down, they look at an adult to go, how do I respond? And if you laugh, then they laugh. If you go, oh, are you okay? Then they freak out. And we kind of laugh at kids doing that, but we do that all the time. Like every day we're going through the world going, how is everyone else reacting to this situation? How is everyone else walking through the world? If everyone else acts like it's okay, it's okay. If everyone else panics, we panic. And so part of going through the world, and the reason I thought Wayne was such a good example of this is because I go, oh, it's okay. You can be an artist and not be a jerk. You can be an artist and be funny. You can be and that was like, oh, it's okay for me to do those things. And so one of the quotes that really helped start this journey for me was from this British philosopher named Alan Watts. And he has this quote where he said, you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. And just him saying that was like, oh, it's like a permission slip of
yeah,
you don't have to be stuck in whoever you've been. And I think what you said was great, that, hey, I want to take some of that stuff with me. There are some things about who Michelle is that I'd never want to let go of, because I worked hard for those things and I earned those things. But there's other stuff that I don't have to hold on to all of this. It's not a package deal. Like I can at any point go, you know what? That's the person I used to be. I'm not that person anymore. And I think that just knowing that that's even a possibility is kind of the first step.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't realize that. I don't know that I always have, really, that I can just symbolically set fire to that. And I don't know that it's as quick as just saying, okay, boom, it's gone. But, certainly a first step is that realization. So thanks for bringing that to light.
Of course. There was a TikTok I saw a couple months ago or sometime last year. And it was this guy, and he had his nails painted. And in the comments, someone had said something about, oh, you're a guy and you paint your nails, and they're disparaging him in some way. And it was so funny because his response was amazing. And he just goes, oh, man, I'm sorry. You don't know about doing whatever the F you want? And he was just like, oh, you aren't aware of that you can be whatever you want to be. You can move through the world the way that you want. And he wasn't defensive about, here's why I paint my nails. He just said, oh, I'm sorry that you don't know about that. It's amazing. This is how we should all be living our lives. And so, I think that that's one thing I've noticed through my time of being a speaker and working in schools and talking to people about kindness and empathy and understanding and things is so often what people need isn't for you to walk in and hand them a solution. It's just for you to go hey, you're going to be okay. And it's okay if you want to do this, or it's okay if you want to do that. It's okay if you want to walk through the world in this way or that way. It's okay if you want to process this stuff in your own time. Just giving people permission and saying the way that you are right now, or the things that you're feeling right now, or all of that's valid and that's okay. And they go, oh, okay. And a lot of times that's enough, and they'll figure it out. They just needed to know, am I losing my mind right now, or is this going to be all right?
Well, and one of the things that I read, one of your quotes too, is hurt people hurt people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that makes me think, oh, your nails are painted. Okay. So, there was this need to, what can I say that's ugly to you? What can I? So.
Yeah, so I talk about that in the book. The hurt people thing is a quote. It's funny because I had heard that like when I was a kid, people told me that, or when I was in high school, and people would go, hurt people, and I always just like, I don't know what you mean. Like, what is it? Just because you say something twice doesn't mean I understand it. Yeah. But I later learned like the truth of that, and it's so powerful that there were some people in my life, like in high school, that just went out of their way to make my life hard, and years later, I remember talking, there was one guy in particular, and years later I was talking to another guy I'd gone to high school with, and that the first person came up in conversation, and I said, man, I don't know why he was that way. Like, I never did anything to him. And this guy, he had way more history with this guy. He'd grown up on the same street as him. He had played in his house and stuff as a kid. And he just like very matter-of-factly went, oh, I know why he's that way. And then he just started detailing like all of these terrible things that guy had in his life. And none of which I knew about. Like from the outside, I saw this kid as he's popular. He's good at sports. He has a girlfriend. I call that the high school triple crown. Like if you have those three things in high school, you're doing pretty good. What I didn't know was like his dad's an alcoholic. His mom was like really cold and unloving and like all this stuff. And as soon as this guy kind of painted that picture for me, I went, oh yeah, that's why he's that way. That's why he did that to me. Cause like, that's just, he was a hurt person and he was hurting me. Yeah. And that kind of let me let go of that. Cause I was like, oh, this didn't really have anything to do with me. I just happened to be there when it happened. I just happened to be like caught in the crossfire. There's not really anything else for me to process or learn from this. It's not about like, what did I, it's just, man, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that let me kind of let go of it and also go like, you know what, man, I wish that guy the best. I really hope that he got through all of that and like, and processed all. And that goes against what you're supposed to say about your bullies. People always say like, man, I hope he got his, or I hope somebody did to him what he did to me. And what I realized is like, oh, somebody did already do that to him. That's why he did that to me. And so if I wish that anymore, all that does is that just makes another me down the road. If I'm like, I hope somebody makes him feel like trash. It's like, well, then he's going to then go make someone else feel like trash. Yeah. So you're really hoping for it's like more innocent bystanders. I don't hope for that. Yeah. So yeah.
So is that what you find that when you're speaking to the youth, is that the message that you're giving them is, you're trying to stop the cycle?
The message I give to young people is a talk. It's called "It Only Takes One," and it's basically just about the power of one person to make a difference, for good or for bad. And I just kind of go through times in my life, like when I grew up going to this really small school, and I just didn't feel like I fit in there with the staff or the students or anyone. And it wasn't that I was bullied or anything like that. Everyone was nice to me. I think like they didn't know what to do with me. I was kind of bouncing off the walls, and I had a lot of energy and probably some undiagnosed ADHD and these were all like, it was a private school. So it was very like, yes, ma'am, no, sir, kind of a thing. And I just like felt so alone in that place for the first several years that I was there. And I felt like, man, I would have kids over to my house and they wouldn't have me over to their house. And at one point I asked this guy like, hey, how come you never have me over to your house? And he said, well, I can't because my mom says you're dangerous. And this is when I'm in second grade. And so I'm like, how dangerous can a second grader even be? They like fit inside of a mailbox, And so I just like, and when that all happened, like I just was in a very dark place. Like in second grade, I was thinking about suicide, and I tell this story in schools, and then in third grade, I'm still just like in this dark place. And then finally fourth grade comes and this new kid shows up and my entire life changes. Like, and it wasn't that like everything changed and the whole school like rebuilt itself around helping me. And like, I kind of had that thought of like, beforehand, I thought, man, before my life gets better, all this is going to have to change, and that's not going to happen. So it felt hopeless. And what I realized is like, oh, actually, all I needed was one person. Like, it only takes one person to make you feel like you matter, to make you feel like you have a place in this world. And then I talk about like, it only takes one person to make you feel like you don't matter, and to make you feel like you're garbage and you're a loser and everyone hates you. And then I just kind of go through like all the things in life that can be done by one person and how those are really the things that last. And like, if you ask an old person, who's the first person that ever made you feel like you were important, they'll know. They'll remember that from 80 years ago. But if you ask them who won the Super Bowl in 1998, they won't know that. They won't care. But those are the things that culture puts emphasis on. It's stuff that's like really important for 5 seconds. And everyone has to know about it. And then 2 minutes later, no one cares. And so I'm trying to shift the focus back onto like, actually the things that really matter are like, interactions between one person and another human being. Like I have done so many of these podcast interviews, both before the book, but also like supporting the book. And like now I've done several last week. I've done that. Like not to pump you guys up, I will never forget the fact that you went and got Wayne White to come onto this podcast. Like that will forever exist in my heart. It's like, they did that for me. And the thing is, like, it wasn't like you didn't bend heaven and earth to make that happen. Like you said, you sent him an email and he responded and said yes or whatever. And like, that's what I'm always trying to emphasize with students is a lot of times it's just taking some little effort. It's just going out of your way to like, the thing that makes a person feel like they matter is just that you noticed that they existed. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, hey, that's a really nice shirt. Or, hey, like, I noticed you're normally really happy and today you're not. Like, what's going on with that? Like, those things, it's just taking a brief second out of your day to stop caring about the Super Bowl or whatever the biggest trend on TikTok is, or whatever news story is happening that everyone cares about, and to just see like a human being and to like recognize that they exist and to acknowledge that and to connect with them in some way. That's all it takes. And those are the things that stick with us long term.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Things like that can be life-changing. Like you said, what happened to you in 4th grade?
Yeah.
And sometimes just, a smile from someone.
And also like the other thing is the story that I tell about that kid in 4th grade, like this new kid came and it was just this one kid, but then we became like best friends. We're inseparable for years. I went on vacation with his family. I mean, like it was like a complete 180. And then I tell that story and then sometimes I go, but just so you know, like that can put a lot of pressure on people to feel like, oh man, like now I have to befriend every weirdo at my school or whatever. But I also tell this other story about this guy named Ted Gaddy, and to illustrate kind of the other side of like, you don't have to bring people on vacation with your family. You don't have to become their best friend forever. Sometimes like just one interaction at the right moment can change a person's life. And so my freshman year of high school, my brother convinced me to play football because he played football and he was like on the varsity team and was getting offers from colleges and stuff. And so he was like, oh, it's a great way to meet people. Like you're coming into this new school and stuff. So I signed up for the football team. It never crossed my mind. I never thought about any of this until I walk into the locker room and they hand me all the equipment. And then that's the moment that I realized, like, Kyle, you've never watched a football game before. You don't know what the rules of football are. You don't know what, like, if you had held a gun to my head and said, how many people are on the field at one time? I would have died. I would have guessed a completely random number. It would have been wrong. And I start kind of having this panic attack of like, oh no, because everyone else is putting on all their pads and equipment and stuff. I have this pile of stuff and I'm like, I don't know how any of this works. And I'm like starting to feel like this was a bad idea and everyone's going to laugh at me, all this kind of stuff. And this guy named Ted Gaddy, he sees me, doesn't say a word, just walks over. He grabs I had my football pads on backwards. He flips them around and then there's this series of like complicated, like overly complicated straps. And like, it's not like a buckle that it could just be a snap, but instead of being a snap, it was like a weird T-shaped thing that fits into another thing and turns sideways. And he just comes up, flips my thing around and just goes zoop, 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 and like adjusts everything and it doesn't say a word and then slaps me on the shoulder. And he's like, Ted Gaddy. And I stick out my hand and I was like, Kyle Scheele. And he was like, hey man, I know this stuff is hard at first. You're going to get the hang of it. Like basically what he said was, you're okay. It's going to be okay. And then he said, if you ever need anything, my name's Ted. And I tell that story. And then at the end, I'm like, you know what happened after that? Ted and I became best friends and I went on vacation and I'm like, no, none of that happened. Like I hardly saw Ted Gaddy in high school. It wasn't that we didn't like each other. We just ran in completely different circles, didn't have any classes together, just never saw that guy. Like we were on the football team. We were nice to each other and that was kind of it. But I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that one day when I was like, oh no, I don't think I'm okay. He just came in and goes, no, you're okay. And that was all I needed. And I've told that story for like 12 years, flying all over the country. But I'd never seen Ted Gaddy like since high school. And then last year, during the middle of the pandemic, I walk into this restaurant and because I'm like, supporting local businesses or whatever. That was my way of justifying eating takeout food like every single night. And so I have my son with me. He's 12 now, so he was 10 or 11 at the time. And we walk into this restaurant. It's a ghost town. No one's in there. And the kind of door goes ding, 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 ding when we walk in, and I hear someone in the back go, I'll be out there in a second. And it's like plexiglassed in, like the cashier station. This is like height of the pandemic. And this guy comes out, he's got a mask on, I have a mask on, and he starts telling me about the specials and stuff. And I eventually picked something out, and then he says, it'll be whatever, $35. And I hand him my card, and he looks at the card before he swipes it, and he goes, Kyle Scheele. And I was like, oh no, do I owe this person money? And and I was like, yeah. And he goes, Ted Gaddy. And I almost lost it. I was like, oh my gosh, and I was like, Ted Gaddy, how the heck have you been? And we're kind of catching up and stuff. And I was like, do I say something? Do I not say something? And finally I was like, I can't not say something. So I just go, Ted, I don't know if you remember this, but freshman year of high school, and I start telling the story, and he goes, I do remember that. And I was like, Ted, I've never forgotten that story. And I was like, and I go, I hope this isn't weird, but for like the last 12 years, I've been going around the country spreading the gospel of Ted Gaddy. And I was like, there's a revival happening. And you could tell like it meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to me. And my son's just like, Dad, can we just go? But I tell that story because it illustrates like sometimes all a person needs is just that one person to go like, you're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. I know this sucks right now, but it's all right. You'll figure it out. And then you just go like, okay, if I can figure it out, if they said I can figure it out, like it's all right. That's all I need.
Michelle tells me that every day.
I do. I do.
It's going to be okay, Kellen. It's going to be okay.
And I bet that there are days that Kellen tells Michelle that. And like that's how we get through this all together, is that we aren't supposed to do this on our own. And I think sometimes like society like shames us for needing help or like acknowledging that we need help or any of that stuff. But the truth is like we're supposed to do this together. And so when you fall down, I'll help you up and you help me up. And that's how we get through this. Like that's how we make it through this whole thing. And so, I think that's so cool. I think that's incredible.
I have a question.
Yes.
Am I going to be going on vacation with your family now?
We'll get there. We'll see.
Oh my goodness.
That's good.
Well,
Sorry. I could talk to. We could talk to you for another 4 hours, but we're running out of time. We have to do our last segment.
We are respectful of Kyle's time, and we are. Y'all know I can never see anything, but I can see that we're in our 57th minute. So,
we'll go to our final segment, and then we'll come back and we'll let him speak whatever he wants to say. So
take us on out. Yeah. I forgot that we had that fancy thing.
I know.
Kyle, we have a tradition on Candidly Speaking where we talk about moisturizer. Okay. I'm not sure if that's anything that you've really thought a lot about or talked about, but we do need to know what type of moisturizer you use.
Okay. I will say, I will answer your question in a second, but at the beginning of this, when I was like backstage or whatever it's virtually called, and I found out that not washing your face makes you look 7 days older. Yeah. I was like, I've not washed my face, I don't think ever in my entire life. So I must look like the Crypt Keeper.
58.
Oh my gosh. I look like 100 years old or something. So
you do need to work on that.
Yes.
I will tell you that, but I will let you in on a secret. That applies if you've got a face full of makeup.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't have that. So my wife does get mad at me because she's like I just naturally have pretty clean skin, and she hates it. She's like, oh, it's like she's jealous because she puts on 50 different things, and then she'll still break out or whatever.
Too. Don't get us wrong. We hate you too.
Yeah.
But what I do struggle with in the winter is dry hands, and so I use Aveeno, whatever the normal, it's like some oatmeal stuff or something.
Yeah,
I put that stuff on, and that keeps my hands. Otherwise, my hands will like crack and fall apart. So that's I just use it for keeping my hands moist, and only during the winter.
We've had some really interesting like answers in the past. Somebody said lard.
People say lard.
Yeah, and
I know. I've seen. It doesn't surprise me. I'm sure that somebody said coconut oil. I'm sure that EVOO comes up. Like any kind of oil, people will rub it on their face. Even though the goal that they're trying to get to is less oil on their face. So,
funny how that works.
Maybe it's like a fight fire with fire kind of a thing. I don't know.
Two negatives make a positive.
Yeah, it cancels out.
They do. They do. Well, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with, Kyle?
Or where do you want them to buy your book? They need to buy your book because I love your book. I have wait. I have one copy left, and I put it in one of my posts that the 101st person to subscribe to our YouTube channel, I will mail them that book.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do that. And if that's not you, it's available wherever books are sold. So you can get it on Amazon. You can get it. I would say support your local bookstore if you have one. If not, you can support my local bookstore, which is Pagination Bookshop in Springfield, Missouri. But really anywhere that you want to get it. It's also on Audible, and I did the narration, which was super fun. I got to sit in a booth for like 3 days and read my own words. But yeah, I mean, it always means the world to me anytime anyone reads my book. It's a very strange thing to have this thing that I wrote in this office during the early days of the pandemic. And now there's, people all over the world that are reading it and being impacted by it and stuff. So I'm extremely grateful for all of that. In terms of last things to leave your audience with, I'll just say the subtitle of the book is The Case for Burning Your Regrets, Chasing Your Crazy Ideas, and Becoming the Person You're Meant to Be. And I will just say that almost every good thing in my life has come from me chasing some crazy idea that I had. And most of the time it's like something that I couldn't explain to you why it was a good idea or what it was going to benefit me, or none of my ideas fit into a profit and loss statement or any of that. But I don't know. There's just something that happens when an idea just won't let you go. And I think that you should listen to that thing and listen to that kind of creative intuition and go after those things. We talked about the marathon, which was that was just an idea that I had because my friend was always pressuring me to run marathons with him. And we had this whole conversation where I was like, what if I just faked one? And what if I just said I did it? And he was like, well, no one would believe you. And so then I thought, well, if I got enough people to say it, maybe then, and it was, that led to we were in Runner's World magazine. They've talked about our marathon and every single good thing in my life has come from me chasing some crazy idea. The birthday party led to 21,000 people burning their regrets. And 2 years ago, I had this dumb idea for a Christmas present, and I posted on TikTok, and literally overnight, I went from having 17 followers to having 1 million followers. And that's how you found out about me. And so it all just came from me having an idea and being like, oh, what would happen if I just chased this? And so, I would say chase those crazy ideas, and you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I can't wait to find out what's next because
me neither.
I know I'm your biggest fan. Not you, Michelle. You're not as big as fan. I am. Okay.
I'm working on it though. I'm working.
Yeah, I know you're close.
What you're chasing.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. I will never forget this. I appreciate you guys so much, and have a great rest of your night.
If you can hang around a little bit after we check out. But first, we have to take care of some business. Thank you to our sponsors, Blue Sky Video Productions, Goodwin Graphics, cottonfeelsgood.com, and of course, Cards That Wow. And don't forget to subscribe and share and try to be that 101 subscriber because I will mail you this awesome book that I don't have with me, even though I have 4 copies of them.
You're in Florida. Thank you so much, Kyle. Such a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All righty. See you next week.